Hey, I'm Chris Bias, and this is my Module 7 video discussion topic. For this discussion, I'll talk about an organization for whom I no longer work. The organizational culture was different from any hospital that I've ever worked in. The first thing that I noticed whenever I began to work there was that the facility seemed to be well aware that how they did things was different from how most hospitals did things. I didn't know what this meant initially, but I started to pick up on things being different whenever I noticed the language being used within the facility was different from what I was used to from working in other healthcare facilities. The first odd term that I noticed was that the leaders within the organization referred to performing medicine and nursing in a non traditional manner, was being called cabalized. That term was in reference to the first name of the facility being called Cabal. So when a new employee started, people would say that you'll be cabalized soon enough if you thought or questioned something or some way that was done in a way that you thought was odd or even backwards. I also happened to be working for this organization during a period of time when their external adaptation was evolving from one that appeared to focus on quality patient care and the job satisfaction of their employees into an organizational culture that was clearly concerned about making money, acquiring new properties, merging and taking control of other hospitals and facilities within the community, and creating essentially a healthcare monopoly within the region. Once I got through the initial onboarding and socialization process and entered the emergency department, I noticed another odd structure that existed within that department. This particular facility did not operate with a geographical nursing model, where one nurse is assigned to 3 or 4 rooms and is largely responsible for the patients that occupy those rooms. This system rather operated on nurses assigning themselves to patients. Therefore, your assignment could be spread throughout the entire emergency department, and no one was given assignments. This resulted in a culture um, of people who were highly motivated intrinsically and those who were not highly motivated at all. Essentially, what happened was the motivated group congregated together and worked well together and even became friends outside of work, while the people who did not carry their load with patient care and other tasks, and who were also not held accountable to do so by leadership, became resented by the motivated group, um, because we were all basically receiving the same amount of pay, whether you busted your rear in trauma for 12 straight hours or disappeared somewhere within the bowels of the hospital for hours on end doing who knows what. And all those people who were not motivated seemed to become friends as well with one another. It was also a very divided culture as a result of that. I happened to join this organization during a time of its clear organizational maturity where the turnaround had become frequent. The company was attempting to reorganize and give itself a rebirth through its attempts at merging with and taking control of other regional facilities and attempting its regional healthcare monopoly. Coercive persuasion was also present within the organization as disciplinary action was threatened seemingly at every turn when anything was requested from leadership, rather than requesting um, anything with respect or providing an incentive outside of simply avoiding disciplinary action. Other coercive tactics employed by this organization involve things like taking away the pensions of tenured employees and the removal of other various benefits, which many people suspected that the organization wanted to get rid of many of its tenured employees because they made more money and they could save cost if the people making more money left. So it was interesting that soon after this happened, the organization also lowered wages for new employees that would be incoming. The general feel of the organizational climate was one of job dissatisfaction, burnout, and doing the bare minimum to get by, which in many cases could really be very minimum because there was little accountability from the leadership ranks. You could almost watch the emergence of shared perceptions develop as negativity and low effort seemed to be contagious. And this was actually kind of sad to see in many cases because you could see a new person come in. They were perky, motivated, ready to change the world, and usually within a year, oftentimes even less. You could see their demeanor, work ethic, and attitude change, and usually not for the best. The organization appeared to have an unadaptive culture where managers cared only about the immediate work group. They were unwilling to make changes that might improve how the tasks are completed, and they weren't willing to consider trying new things or allow employee innovation. So there appeared to be a discrepancy between how the broader organization as a whole was attempting to evolve and consume the regional healthcare market as its sole provider, and a willingness of the individual unit leadership and its departments to adapt to these changes. This resulted in an influx of unprecedented patient volumes because we were receiving transfers and direct admits from facilities from outside hospitals from whom we never did before, which in turn overloaded our units, especially the emergency department. Uh, this turned the department into being severely understaffed in relation to patient volume and the number of patients exceeding the amount of physical beds that we had. This turned into a perpetual cycle of boarding multiple intensive care unit patients in the emergency department while treating many patients in the hallways and continuing to receive outside transfers from other towns when we couldn't even adequately take care of the people in our own community waiting in the lobby. Uh, Basically, it appeared as if the organization had bitten off more than it could chew, so to speak, and kind of shot itself in the foot in regards to recruitment and retention and employee satisfaction and well being, while its outcomes weren't really superior or even on par either. Uh, so, my tenure in the organization was basically a big lesson of what not to do regarding leadership. And then me and my family eventually picked up, left town, and now I graze in greener pastures. Anyhow, thanks for listening.